Well, welcome back to BVarsity Live for Thursday, October the 2nd. Zach Ewing, Trevor Horn, Justin Roberts here in the Dignity Health Studio, joined now by Mark Tennis, the editor and all things Lord and King of Cal High Sports. Mark, how are you today?
Pretty good. How are you doing, Zach?
Hey, not bad, not bad. Let's see. We got a big one down here in Kern County this week at Bakersfield and Ridgeview, playing at Ridgeview 7:30 on Friday night. And it's a game that I think you guys up there, looking at a statewide perspective, probably have your eyes on too, right?
Oh, no doubt about it, as it affects not one but two different bowl game divisions.
Well, let's start with Bakersfield, defending D1 Bowl state champions, and a team that could still get back there. A lot of people kind of look at it and say, oh, you got to go undefeated to get there. Well, they lost to Edison, but if this Drillers team were to keep winning and keep playing like it's playing, perhaps beating Edison again in the Central Section playoffs, I mean, they still stand a very good chance of getting back to at least the Southern Cal regional game, correct?
Very much so. Yeah, especially if they were to avenge their only loss somehow in the playoffs, or they get another crack at Edison and then beat them. That always goes over well with the commissioners. And then, of course, they're a defending champion, and it's always difficult for a section commissioner to vote against a defending champion, especially if there's not that many other good teams on the board. And in the Southern California in Division I, that looks like that's the case. I mean, the LA City doesn't look like it's real strong this year, and the West Valley division of the Southern section also already has teams with losses that are ranked way up there. So we all assume that the Pac-5 division of the Southern section is going to go to the Open division. So that's going to make it a lot easier for a Bakersfield to get one of those two spots.
And that's one of the things. Mark, this is Trevor. How are you? I miss you, buddy.
Hi, Trevor.
Hey, by the way, great article today on El Dorado High School and Sports Star magazines. For those that don't know, El Dorado High School is in Placerville, which was an area that was highly affected by the Kings fire. And Mark wrote a fantastic piece about 2 or 3 of the football players on that team that their families were really affected and they had to be evacuated out of their homes. But yet that El Dorado team is, what, 4-0 now? Is that right, 4-0?
They're 4-0. They had a bye last week.
Yeah. Fantastic piece. But Mark, we're going into it, it looks like it's going to be the San Diego section champ against, as long as Edison and Bakersfield do what they're supposed to do here in the regular season and in the playoffs, that it's a good chance that, we're going to see the same thing that we did last year with Central section versus San Diego section, possibly in the D1 championship. Is that right?
I think that's a pretty good read on it as of now. There's some teams that have that could build some real solid resumes in that Southern section, West Valley division, especially a team like Chino Hills, which his only loss is to Jay Serra. And if they were to go 13-1, and then Jay Serra does really well in the Pac-5, well, that's a team that could build a good resume. So there's a few teams out there that, if you look at it in the big picture, could get in there and upset that scenario as you describe it. But I think most people, and most likely it's a San Diego Open division versus Central Section Division I, and that's assuming that it is, like you say, Edison and Bakersfield are the two teams that get all the way. And there's a few. I think there's a few variables in there with the Clovis North. They only lost by a close game to Edison, and they're going to get their big, giant defensive tackle back, and they could end up being pretty good by the end of the season as well.
What if it is a team, Mark, like a Clovis North or even Liberty, which has a couple of losses now, that gets hot, say, in November and wins the Central Section Championship? Are they out of the picture with those couple of losses, or is there still a chance they could get into a bowl game?
I think it's so early right now. There's definitely a chance teams with 2 losses, a 2-loss team could get into the Southern California Division I game. And some of the divisions, if you have 1 or 2 losses, I think it's going to be a lot harder. But in that particular group, I think the LA City is definitely down. A team like Upland already has 2 losses. A team like Hart already has 2 losses. So, it would be difficult with 2 or 3 losses, but I don't think it would be that impossible, because the LA City is really not very good, I don't think. And the West Valley division is just so many kind of wide open. It's hard to know which team's going to emerge. A team could get hot from that division too. If you're a Central Section fan, you want that team to be Mission Viejo, obviously, to
Sure.
get hot. And they're a really young team, but the commissioners don't look at that type of stuff. They see Mission Viejo's on the board and Liberty beat them, so there you go. So,
right.
And stranger things have happened than Mission Viejo getting a lot better by the end of the season.
Mission Viejo or Oaks Christian, which lost to Bakersfield, so that would be another possibility. How has perception of Bakersfield football changed statewide in your eyes, Mark? I mean, not just Bakersfield winning the state title last year, but they have gone up and beat a Grant in the last 10 years. They've beat a Canyon a couple years after Canyon won a state title. They seem to be they beat a Long Beach Poly a couple years ago. They seem to play these big teams, and for a long time, I think the Central Section had a perception problem. Is that still the case, or is that changing a little bit?
I think as far as the Central Section as a whole, I think, yes, you're right. There is sort of a perception problem, but for Bakersfield High School in particular, given that everyone in California knows how great they've been for, 60, 70, 80, 90 years, I don't think it really applies so much to Bakersfield High. I think that particular school has a great reputation statewide amongst anybody you would talk to. So, and knows that in any one particular year that they could have a great team, and the team they had at the end of last year not only won their games but did so very impressively, and they were certainly comparable to the two teams that played in the open division. I don't think they would have won, but they still were really, really good and played at a great high level. And so as far as Bakersfield High School itself is concerned, I don't think their reputation has ever really been statewide, has ever really been too down. But the section as a whole does have that problem, and part of it is they haven't done that particularly well in some of the games against the Southern Section.
Right. So a win like Liberty's over Mission Viejo's at least is one strike against that. How about in Division II? We talk. Ridgeview is one of these teams that nobody probably statewide has ever heard of before because they haven't been in the picture. But here they are in Division II, undefeated, a win over Liberty right after the Patriots beat Mission Viejo, a win over Frontier. Now they get a chance against Bakersfield. They're sixth, I believe, in your D2 Southern Cal rankings. How much does a win over Bakersfield help them?
I think a win over Bakersfield helps them a lot because you have to put yourself in the minds of the people who are going to be voting on this, which are the 10 section commissioners. And if the Central Section Commissioner can go into the meeting and say Ridgeview beat Bakersfield, and Bakersfield, especially if Bakersfield were to win the Division I title and Ridgeview wins Division II, that's going to be huge. And it's going to carry a lot of weight amongst the other voters in the room. The way we have them in the rankings right now is a little deceiving because the Division II South is a kind of a totally new bracket of teams. We've got a lot of teams that are dropping down from higher divisions like San Clemente, Redlands East Valley, and some others in the Southern Section. And then you've got a team like Ridgeview, which obviously had that win over Liberty and gets a big-time chance against Bakersfield. There's just a lot of teams in that group. I think in that particular group of teams, if you have one or two losses, it is going to matter because I think there's a good chance there's going to be some 14 and 0s on the board. There might be some 14 and 0 teams from the Southern Section that may get through. And so if you're not one of if there's two 14 and 0s from the Southern Section, that'll be tough. So there's a lot of variables in that Division II South. I think there's a lot more in Division II South than there is in Division I South, because in Division I South it's so dominated by the Southern Section Pac-5 division, and that isn't the case in Division II South. A lot more of those teams are going to possibly get through and go 14 and 0.
I think there are 3 different Southern Section divisions represented in the 5 teams ahead of Ridgeview. So obviously, if Ridgeview loses this game, it becomes very, very difficult for them to get in. Before we let you go, Mark, I did want to mention the small school bracket. Bakersfield Christian obviously representing Kern County in that state title game last year and losing to Central Catholic of Modesto. The Eagles probably will not be back having lost to CVC, but I will ask the question. All 3 of their losses now, or the other 2 losses, I should say, to bigger schools. CVC's in a different playoff division. Hypothetically, BCHS wins its playoff division, CVC loses. Are the Eagles eliminated from this discussion, or are you still kind of keeping an eye on them?
You're always going to keep an eye on them. Definitely, you'd keep an eye on them. Losses can be explained away very easily. The difference this year and last year is last year Christian of El Cajon was not eligible for the Division IV game, and this year they will be. So if they somehow get through their bracket is actually pretty tough. They have to play some bigger schools. Even Fallbrook, which is over 2,000 kids, is in their bracket potentially.
Wow.
And Sierra Canyon of Chatsworth, which won the Division IV title a couple years ago, and this year's team might even be better. There's some teams in that bracket that may get through that are very good. The problem in Division IV South is just like it was last year is you're not sure which of these smaller schools are going to be winning in their playoff divisions, and they're usually playing up. Like Bakersfield Christian last year had to beat Mission Oak to get eligible, and they did, and that made them an easy choice. Well, some of these other teams are in the same boat, like Christian of El Cajon, Sierra Canyon, and even, of course, some of the others. So you just don't know which ones are going to get through and get eligible. So to say they're completely out of it, even at 2 and 3 right now, we just don't know, because a lot of these teams could get bounced in the playoffs.
And if that does happen, I mean, you saw View Park of LA get picked last year, and they were undefeated, but obviously not against a tough schedule. They were outclassed when they got to the regional bowl game. How about a team like Kern Valley out of Lake Isabella that could be undefeated, should be a heavy favorite in its section division? I mean, they're just sort of in the clubhouse, to use a golf term, if they can win that division and hoping other teams lose, and they could pop up and grab one of those spots, right?
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, I think their chances are that's possible. But a lot of teams, I think, would have to lose for that to happen. I think a lot of teams would probably have to lose for Bakersfield Christian to get back as well, including St. Margaret's and including CVC probably. So there's a lot of teams that have to lose for that to happen.
Yeah, that's for sure. Mark Tennis of Cal High Sports, we appreciate you joining us. And again, the website there is Cal High. That's just hisports.com. Great content there almost every day of the week, and they have expanded content if you become a gold member, and
which I am,
which we both are. Yeah, we appreciate the time, Mark, and we'll be ready to give you results from Bakersfield Ridgeview tomorrow night.
Sounds good. Can't wait. It'll be a great game. I hope everybody has a great time that goes.
All right, thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks, Trevor.
So that's Mark Tennis of Cal High Sports. Again, calhisports.com. They've got all the rankings. Nobody knows more about the CIF statewide than those guys. You might be able to find people who know more about an individual area, but not statewide. I mean, they know everything.
No, they got good rankings. Everything's up to date. It's a great website, and I'm glad to hear that we have some teams in this county that still have a fighting chance.
Yeah, and obviously Bakersfield Ridgeview, almost an elimination game for those state bowls. I mean, if you're Bakersfield, even if you go back and beat Edison, you don't want to have 2 losses and one of them to a Division II team on your resume when it comes to state bowl time, even if they go on to win the Valley title. And in Ridgeview's case, you heard Mark say there's so many divisions that funnel in to D2 for state bowls that you almost have to be undefeated and have that quality win over a team like Bakersfield to get considered. So it's a huge game, not only for Kern County bragging rights and for record-wise and that sort of thing, and for seeding of the section playoffs, but also for state bowls. So Mark Tennis joined us. We'll be right back. We're going to run through some Week 5 predictions when we come back here on BVarsity Live.